Greg Ehrenberg here with Greg Ehrenberg. Adam is dealing with COVID, not feeling well. He's taking some time off. So I'm just going to be doing this by myself. I was told, hey, maybe we'll cut the NBA injury report for a little bit until Adam's good to go again. But I said, no, the people need to have their NBA injury report information. So just doing it by myself. New thumbnail also. I think you guys will be pretty excited about that. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Anything that changes in terms of injuries later on the day, any questions you guys have, leave them below in the comment section. I'll be answering those later on in the day. But without further ado, I'm going to break down some of these injuries that I have to talk about and just me by myself. Talking about the Washington Wizards to start, Bradley Beal, he is out once again. We've seen Bradley Beal miss a little bit of time now with a wrist injury. He's probably a week or so away from returning, but also pretty important for this slate. There's no Thomas Bryant for the Washington Wizards. And ever since Thomas Bryant came back from that ACL injury, which was about a month ago, he got back into the mix, we saw the Washington Wizards go from a time split with Daniel Gafford and Montrezl Harrell to it just being a situation where Gafford was playing really limited minutes, even fell out of the rotation at one point, and then Thomas Bryant ended up moving into the starting lineup. Now I think we have to look at this team and say there's probably going to be like a 24-minute split between Harrell and Gafford. And considering what their current prices are and how much they've been priced down with Thomas Bryant back, I think both of them make for pretty good value plays, particularly Daniel Gafford. If he starts nearly min price on DraftKings, he would be somebody to look at. Also on the Washington side, with Bradley Beal out of the picture, more usage goes to Spencer Dinwiddie. I know he was massively disappointing last night, but even so, I'm willing to go back to him in this spot. He's generally produced really well with Beal off the court this year. The game that he had last night, the assists were there, the rebounds were there. He just couldn't buy a bucket. The scoring numbers should come up. So Dinwiddie still makes sense. And then, of course, Kyle Kuzma, who I've made fun of a lot this year. I made my amends with that. I apologize to Kyle Kuzma. He's been terrific as a fantasy asset, especially without Bradley Beal. So I don't mind getting back to Kyle Kuzma again with Bradley Beal out of the mix. The next spot to talk about here, the Indiana Pacers. We've got Miles Turner, Goga Bitadze out. The return of Domantas Sabonis, that did not last very long. He is out again. He's now in the health and safety protocol, just like Adam. Him and Domantas Sabonis, maybe they're hanging out together. Maybe they were tongue kissing. Who knows? For whatever reason, though, coincidence or not, maybe conspiracy theory to be had here. Domantas Sabonis, Adam Schur, sick at the exact same time. But now there is a void to fill, not just in the front court for the Indiana Pacers, but also, Malcolm Brogdon, he's been out for an extended period of time. TJ McConnell's been out. TJ Warren hasn't played at all this season. There's a lot of minutes to fill here for the Indiana Pacers. Oh, and I should also mention O'Shea Brissett is questionable to play. So now we're looking at a team, Karis LeVert, about appropriately priced, a little more favorable play on FanDuel than he is on DK. But where I'm really looking on this team is with Isaiah Jackson. He started for the Indiana Pacers last game and did some real work from a fantasy perspective. Ended up playing 29 minutes, scored 46.5 fantasy points. We look at the numbers overall on the season for Isaiah Jackson. That was his first start of the year, but still, he's scored well over a fantasy point per minute when he's been on the court. Considering that he still has a pretty fair price tag on FanDuel and DraftKings, I think we have to get to him here. And then something else to consider, there's upside in that playing time. He scored 26 points and pulled down 10 rebounds in less than 30 minutes last game. I think he earned himself some extra playing time. I look at Isaiah Jackson as one of the top value plays on the slate, as long as nothing changed with Indiana, which I don't think is going to be the case. Next team to talk about here, Steven Adams, the Memphis Grizzlies. Steven Adams is questionable to play. I don't think this is the most impactful injury situation on the entire slate, but it is one that I wanted to bring up because there's some value to be had here if Adams is not able to go. He played 37 minutes in the Grizzlies last game. It was an overtime game, but still, he's somebody who, when he's in, we're projecting him for 26 to 30 minutes or so. It's a gap to fill, and this is a team in the Memphis Grizzlies that while they play a deeper rotation, there are some guys that could step up. The one that stands out the most to me, Brandon Clark, fairly reasonable price point. He would be somebody who I would not consider at all if Steven Adams plays. He's worth a little bit of exposure to if Adams isn't in there. And then somebody else to think about, Jaren Jackson Jr. He would play some extra center minutes, and the foul issues for Jaren Jackson Jr., they still linger a little bit, but it's not nearly as bad as it was in previous years. I'm going to look up really quick here. The last time, let's do trivia. When's the last time Jaren Jackson Jr. fouled out? Going through his box scores. Yeah, he hasn't fouled out a game since December 19th. So we've seen a lot more consistency with Jaren Jackson Jr. in terms of his ability to play on the court. Recent games, 35 minutes, 23 minutes. That was a blowout game, though. It wasn't foul related. 30 minutes, 32, 35. So we're seeing Jaren Jackson Jr. keeping his hands to himself. He's not picking up quick fouls. It's letting him play extra minutes. So if Steven Adams is out, I think we could give a few extra minutes to Jaren Jackson Jr. That would make him a viable GPP play. The best value play potentially from this situation would be Brandon Clark. Guys, don't forget, the NBA Injury Report. It is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. If you guys are not familiar with Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports, they have really good DFS contests, particularly for football. They have guaranteed overlay basically every single Sunday, something that you guys should be taking advantage of. Also, if you use the link in the description box below, you head on over to Yahoo, make a profile, make a deposit, enter a contest. You get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. We have all the tools there that you need to make money basically on every single DFS site, and for all different DFS sports as well, whether it's esports, basketball, football, hockey. We have pretty much everything covered. Well, doing a show by yourself, I know it's a short thing. It's a lot going on here because I'm not only talking, I'm producing, I'm going to be editing this afterwards. Long story short, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I'll be back doing this by myself until Adam's recovered, but still some more to talk about for this particular slate. Darius Garland, he was ruled out of the Cavaliers last game. He is going to be out again. One thing that really surprised me about the Cavaliers starting lineup last game, they started Cedi Osman at point guard. It did not go well whatsoever for the Cleveland Cavaliers offense. They ended up winning the game, but the offense looked really discombobulated, particularly at the start of the game. But I still think we're going to see Cedi Osman start again. He played 38 minutes in that game. Really hard for me to get away from him as a value play when we're going to expect, potentially upwards of 40 minutes in this spot. So DK and FanDuel, Cedi, really high priority play. Somebody else that I don't think the field is going to be getting to here that's interesting to me, Brandon Goodwin. Goodwin didn't start the first half, but he started the second half. And the reason he did was because, like I said, that offense was so discombobulated for Cleveland in the first half. There was no ball movement. They had possessions where it was Isaac Okoro going one-on-one, Cedi Osman going one-on-one. I would have thought it was going to be Rajon Rondo that ended up picking up the bulk of the point guard minutes, but ended up being Goodwin, and he played well in the second half. Don't be surprised if Brandon Goodwin ends up starting this game ahead of Dean Wade. 27 minutes for Goodwin last game. I think he's going to be ahead of Rajon Rondo in the rotation. If Goodwin starts, really strong value play to look at, and I think there's a pretty good chance that he mans the point guard spot and Dean Wade returns to a bench role in this game. Next team to look at, the Dallas Mavericks. We have, surprise, Kristaps Porzingis. He's out. He's dealing with an injury. Only a knee bruise, though. It looked like it was something that could have been a little bit more significant when it first happened. But for now, only day-to-day for Kristaps Porzingis. What I really think we should be looking at here is actually Marquise Chris. And it's hard to really peg down Marquise Chris's minutes, but he's been a pretty good points per fantasy producer for most of his career when he's gotten on the court. Now, can we ever count on him? Is he safe? No, absolutely not. But look at Marquise Chris's last 2 games now for the Dallas Mavericks. 16 minutes and 24 fantasy points. Last game, 19 minutes and 32 fantasy points. Now we have Porzingis out. I don't know how popular Marquise Chris is going to be, but as a deep GPP flyer, he's somebody that's interesting to me. I think we could see 22 to 24 minutes from Marquise Chris as a guy who averages over a fantasy point per minute at a minimum salary. I don't think people are going to be there. That's an interesting GPP play for larger field tournaments that makes sense to me. Luka Doncic, his numbers generally are the same with Porzingis on or off the court. No real difference there. Maybe a few more minutes we could give to Dorian Finney-Smith. What I'm really looking at here is Marquise Chris as a deeper GPP option. Maxi Kleber also viable, but I actually prefer getting to Chris for this particular game. The final injury report situation to look at here. The Utah Jazz, we've known Rudy Gobert's been out for a while. He's dealing with a calf injury. Donovan Mitchell still in the concussion protocol. He's going to miss another game. But now we have Hassan Whiteside questionable. He's dealing with lower back soreness. If Hassan Whiteside is out, there just are not big men for the Utah Jazz to play. If Whiteside starts, we could look at him as, a viable GPP play. His price is around accurate. He's been priced up pretty correctly now that Gobert's out. But if there's no Hassan Whiteside, I think we're going to be giving Eric Pascal some minutes off the bench. Not sure that makes him somebody I really want to get to in my lineups. But Rudy Gay is somebody who'd be pretty interesting to me in the mid 4K range. He's been playing a lot of backup center minutes for the Utah Jazz. We could be looking at like 30 minutes from Rudy Gay in a situation where there is no Rudy Gobert. there is no Hassan Whiteside and no Donovan Mitchell. So just keep up on that Utah Jazz injury report. If Hassan Whiteside plays, he's a low priority GPP play, but not too much to see there. Rudy Gay is somebody who stands out if Hassan Whiteside is not in there. That is going to do it for the first solo edition of the NBA injury report. Do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you guys have any questions at all about anything we've said here, anything that gets changed on the injury report later in the day, leave a question in the comment section. I'll be answering that later on in the day.